We have been married for about 6 years. We share a beautiful daughter who is 18 months old. It's been great for the most part, but it seems like she lives in her own head, where the law of reality bends to her imagination. Let me try to explain what I mean by this. She has never worked in her life. She has a degree in physics, but when she graduated, she met me, and I've taken care of her ever since. I started working when I was 15. I never stopped. I graduated and jumped from company to company till I landed a job which pays too well for me to care to advance. At the age of 28, I bought my own house in the suburbs. Except buying my house and renovating it, I have never really bought anything super expensive. I would go so far as to say I never spend money. Spending doesn't make me happy. I just want financial freedom, so I'm not concerned about paying bills or taking care of my family. My wife, on the other hand, spends $100 on 5 milliliters of eye cream. When she goes shopping, she doesn't check price tags. When she got pregnant, she pressured me into buying her a car. We have 2 cars, and I'm pretty much working 9 out of 10 days from home. She sends money to her family almost every month. It's not much, so I figure if it makes her happy, it's worth it. Since our daughter came to be, her family hasn't come to visit us, as they live over 3,000 miles away. My wife don't want to travel to her home country, so she wants me to pay for everyone to meet in Turkey for a 2-week vacation. I accepted. About 2 weeks ago, she was talking about wanting to send about $1,000 per month to her family. It's not that they're poor. She just can't handle that my family works hard for their wealth, and her family doesn't. I really feel she is struggling with that. Anyway, believe it or not, but I do everything around the house. I cook, I clean, I pick up my daughter from daycare almost every day. I do all the gardening work, and to what avail? A few days ago, I was really tired, like zero energy in my arms and legs tired. I had been doing tons of stuff, while also taking care of our daughter all day long. She had gone to bed at 7 a.m. in the morning because she is painting, as she has been doing for the last 3 or 4 months. Before I went to bed with my daughter, 7 p.m., I told her to please cancel our dinner plans for tomorrow. We had friends coming over, unless she was going to buy groceries and prepare dinner for them. Oh, yes, this is also something I always do, cook and clean for our friends. I went to bed exhausted, and she called and canceled. I also told her to, at the very least, please go pick up milk, as we had run out. Fast forward, I woke up at 5 a.m. She went to bed at 3:30 a.m. She was up painting. I went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast, and I see we don't have milk. My daughter usually gets up between 7 and 8 a.m., so I make sure I'm at the supermarket exactly when they open, so I can be home before my daughter gets up to get her milk. At about 11:30 a.m., my wife wakes up. At this time, I'm getting ready to take my daughter out in her stroller to make her sleep. Before I go, I ask my wife why she didn't pick up milk. She told me it's because she had to work. Something broke inside of me. I couldn't handle that crappy excuse anymore, so I gave her a reality check. I told her exactly how disgusted I had been with her lately. Zero sleep, walking around in bath coat, not working or studying, and demanding I send her family $1,000 a month. All this crazy bat crap nonsense I called out, and I went a little further and let her know how trashy her prioritization was, to paint instead of making sure our daughter had milk in the morning. She screamed and jumped and acted like a fool. All this happened in 5 minutes. I told her to keep her voice down. When she didn't, I left to make sure my daughter was shielded from her meltdown. When we got back, my daughter was sleeping in her stroller. I went inside and heard my wife screaming in the phone, letting her sister know what kind of garbage and crappy excuse for a human being I was. She said she would leave me and stuff like that. I completely ignored it. Then she left for the entire day, which was a relief. The next day, yesterday, and today she hasn't said a word to me. I haven't talked to her either. However, I sense she is extremely angry. I've only overheard her telling our daughter several times how mommy and daddy are going to get a divorce, and that it's okay. She will have 2 homes, 2 rooms full of toys, 2 separate loving and caring families, etc., etc. Here's where I am. I know my wife can't take care of herself financially. I don't want to support her and pay for her new home or anything like that. I'm totally fine with giving her half of my wealth, because in court I can't avoid it. But I would hate seeing my daughter less. While writing this, I realize I would even hate it more if my daughter sees the version of her parents she has been seeing the last 2 days, as she doesn't understand why mommy and daddy won't cuddle with her together, as we usually do every night and day. Ugh, crap. It sucks. I don't want to do therapy. If I could go back, I wouldn't call her out, even though I don't regret it because it was the truth and she needed to hear it. Truth is, she is a lovely mother and a wonderful wife, but the kind who doesn't do anything at all around the house or outside of the house. Her excuse is having one child is taking up all her time. Well, what was it before we had one child? It's always something. I kind of wish I had just put on a podcast, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, and carried my family, instead of expecting more of my wife, so my daughter wouldn't have to wonder what's going on and see this version of her mom and dad. Anyway, I'm thinking I'll give it 7 whole days. Then I'll speak to my wife, if she hasn't talked to me yet, and let her know I was out of line, judging her. That in the moment of anger I said stuff I shouldn't, because it is a lot more than the negative parts which I mentioned. And if it seems like she has zero remorse and zero interest in finding a way to make this work, I guess I should find a lawyer and file for a divorce. Please let me know what you think. She is a lovely mother and a wonderful wife. In what way? You literally wrote 1,200 words about how she is neither. Dude, lawyer up and end this. You're paying for everything, doing all the work, all the housework. She adds nothing except drama and expense. It would be cheaper to pay half of your income than all of it. So, for 6 years, she has done nothing but be what is effectively a trophy wife, bar the odd nice thing for a dying man and getting up in the morning with her own child. Looking after your own children is a requirement, not babysitting. Spend all of your money, send money to get family, and the first time you get fed up and call her out for not pulling her weight, even a little, she starts whispering poison into your toddler's ear about how she's going to divorce you? Mate, this woman sounds hideous. Since you do everything anyway, you'd likely get custody. I'm a woman, and I'm telling you, your wife is taking advantage of you. She wants something for nothing and is more than happy for you to wear yourself down and out doing everything. She doesn't do a single thing to help out with the kids or home. A relationship should be 50-50. I would understand if she was taking care of the house and kids while you're working. But clearly, she can't even do that. I would seek legal advice because she is in the wrong. You shouldn't have to compromise your mental health and physical health just so she can sit around and do nothing and just spend all your money you spend your time earning. She either needs to get a job or take care of your kids and home. Update. Reading people repeat what I said really feels like a hard punch. I need a reality check too. This has to stop. I've decided to wait till Friday. Then I'll speak with her. I will stay calm and collected, suggest therapy because I want this to work for my daughter's sake and for our sake. If she is not on board, then I will have to break the news to my family, friends, and colleagues and find a good lawyer. I will do my best to remain friendly and supportive, but offer zero financial aid apart from what the court demands I pay. I already know what that will be. Half my wealth and a monthly allowance. I don't feel bad about the financial part because I can easily recover, and without her expenses, it looks like a win-win. So my 23 female, ex-best friend, 28 female, let's call her C, is staying with my parents. She came from Tennessee to Kentucky. The household consists of my mom and dad, my little brother, and his wife, 18 and 19, and their baby. There are 2 kitties and 3 dogs, 2 of which stay in my mom and dad's room, and the other roams from my brother's room to the kitchen and back occasionally. Kitties just do their own thing. Her mom and dad kicked her out of the house over 6 months ago. She said it was all her mom's idea and the dad wasn't very happy about it, but didn't resist. I was never told why, but we know her parents are planning to move to Florida, so I assumed they just wanted to make the process smoother and save money. Since she was kicked out, her and her daughter, I think she's 8 this week and is heavily autistic, had nowhere to go, and so I consulted my family, and they agreed to take her in. She was my best friend after all. I trusted her, so did they. She promised to put food in the house to replace whatever she ate and as payment for letting her stay. She did that for a couple months, and stopped. For a couple months, little C and C were staying in the living room. I'd get mild complaints, over the phone, in privacy, of little C making noises at 3 a.m. or so, like every night. Turns out, C would send her to bed at 5 p.m. each day so C could focus on playing Final Fantasy XIV and voice chatting with her friends uninterrupted. This obviously resulted in a hyper, fully rested 7-year-old bouncing around the house in the early hours because she had just taken a nice long rest. All before the household was awake. She'd slam the fridge doors and stomp around and whatnot. Whatever, kid stuff. Of course, I don't blame the little one. She's hyper and wanted something to do. I would also be told of little C coming to my parents for attention, begging for them to play with her, or spend time with her, or feed her, because C did not wish to cook or play with her daughter, opting to play Final Fantasy XIV instead. It was all left up to my parents to do everything. Now, let me set this clear real quick. We've recently discovered that my mom's health is in decline. She's having multiple kinds of seizures now, at the point where she is having short-term memory loss, amnesiac episodes where she loses a few hours of each day. She explains things to me several times as if it's the first time. She also has a very weak heart, and her cardiologist stated, "I'd be surprised if you haven't had multiple small heart attacks in the last few months." And yet, my mother is being made to essentially care for little C. Nobody said anything to C because she struggles with depression and just got kicked out of her home without a good explanation. We understood and went along with things until little C went to live with her dad. 2 months of, mostly my mother, taking care of my best friend's hyper-loud screaming autistic child so she could relax and play some games with friends. She is now currently with her dad and his girlfriend and being taken care of properly by a parent, so don't worry. Now, with little C gone, C is able to focus on Final Fantasy XIV. Hard. She's on it from wake to sleep. Most nights she's up till 6 a.m., then wakes again at like 3 p.m., voice chats with her friends, raids. She's always doing something, hosting art parties and whatnot. She's literally sitting there in her chair in the living room, making ruckus while everyone else has to work around her. Which is fine. That stuff is easy enough to ignore. Hell, I acted almost the same way all my life, except I hid away in my room. Everyone is used to that in the household anyway. It's her volume and tone that's an issue. I'll get to that. She's eating their food, using their hygiene products, driving the electricity bill up, and refuses to do her own laundry, leaving it again to my mother to do for her. C brings in hundreds of dollars in food stamps due to her partial custody of little C, who the government has no idea she's not exactly taking care of right now. And C was returning the food she ate, at least she was for a while. She recently stopped doing so. She never claimed she wasn't bringing food stamps in anymore. She just stopped offering to replace what she used, and would go out on personal grocery runs for Monster Energy, Pocky, Sriracha peas, and other whatnots. All of these things which have packaging that becomes trash, and trash she refuses to walk 3 meters to put into the kitchen garbage. She'll leave it strewn around her desk, which gets knocked into the floor, to stay, to be picked up by my mother when C is asleep or away. When it comes to the animals, my parents and little brother both have informed me that when nobody else is in the room with her, they will hear her yelling and cursing at the cats because they freaked her out or bumped into a cord and messed up her game. I've also been informed that, on occasion, when everyone is out and C is home, they come home to the dogs cowering or acting upset, like they'd just been punished for something, and they're ashamed or even scared. One of the dogs, one day, even had puffy red eyes and nobody could figure out why. It went away the next day. Only C in the house with them. So what is anyone to think? Last month or so, C has been complaining to me about bed bugs and roaches. Now, to be fair, we have had those, both even at the same time, but they haven't been a problem for the past 3+ years. It's only her who mentions bugs, and nobody else in the household corroborates. Nobody else in the household is experiencing bug problems. She'll sit up all night on Discord voice chat, on Final Fantasy, talking to her friends about how she hates it there, how filthy it is, how nasty it is, how she has no food to eat, how she's treated badly, how the place is covered in animal hair and dander, how she can't move around in the house because it's so cluttered, and how so very upset and broken she is that she has nothing to her name and she's so depressed and wants affection. She's been getting loads of packages sent to mom and dad's place, daily DoorDash deliveries from the friends she's talking to online, making more mess, gifts, I'm sure from the people she's swindling into thinking she has it so rough. And another thing, C, my best friend at the time, was invited to my wedding. It was so important to me. But when I asked her, she told me she'd be back in Tennessee for a month, cat-sitting her parents' kitty because he was neutered and had to be watched the entire time while they were apparently out of town for an event she couldn't tell me about. I later learned she was in Tennessee for a week taking care of the cat. The other 3 weeks she was gone, she was in Georgia. She was staying with a man who she only knew from Final Fantasy XIV and had met only one time. Now, isn't that an interesting development? She'd only gotten out of a long-distance relationship a few weeks prior. Now, C is planning to move out with said man. C is being whisked away from her nightmarish hellscape, abandoned and shunned by her parents, and living in a dingy trailer, to move into a new apartment with mystery man from Georgia. She's planning to leave the big stuff with my family, her bed, which is weird, her tall bookshelf, and some other stuff. All of them to deal with on their own. My brother and mom have told me that silverware is going missing as well, and small things like toilet paper running out unusually fast, and planned meals for my dad, who is on a prescribed diet, are also going missing or being eaten. Hopefully, I can get her to hang out with me one day before she leaves, so I can confront her about this in a meaningful way. I need her to come clean and realize her own destructive behavior so she doesn't ruin this poor dude's life right out of the gate. Right now, she seems unstable mentally, so I want to wait until she has all her affairs in order before I have a real conversation with her. OP, you need to focus on extracting this person from your family. Her belongings can either go into storage or she can sell them. Either way, they need to go too, or she will use them as leverage to get back in there when her latest white knight kicks her out. You are the one who introduced this monster into their household, and you have a responsibility to stand up to her now and help free them from her. I need her to come clean and realize her own destructive behavior. Not going to happen. That ship sailed. You're imagining she will see herself for what she is, change, and become your friend again, instead of the horrible, cruel, selfish leech that is making your mother's time on this earth way worse than it should be. But she's way deep in denial and manipulation. Stop trying to save this animal-hurting bee. You owe it to your family to put their needs first.